Thanks, Chairman of the CI National Telecom and Broadband Committee. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a pleasure to be here, and as was mentioned, we are going to release a report on creating, the theme of which is creating viable business models for inclusive growth through the National Optical Fiber Network. Now, the backdrop of the industry and broadband, etc., is all known to us. There are two things, and I'll just primarily cover the theme of the report, and then the report will be made available to all of you. I see that two essential things here. One is the the growth in the economy in terms of GDP or per capita GDP. That's one theme. The other one is inclusive growth, but being inclusive. These two are not separate things. These are pretty much interlinked, intertwined. But how to make this happen? Now, connectivity, as we all know, and especially as we all know in this room, is something which facilitates the inclusiveness in a true sense. All of us in the room are aware that a simple mobile connectivity, enhancement of a 10% penetration increases the GDP, in emerging countries in the range of 0.8% to 1.2% GDP per capita. But that's very old news. I mean, this probably we've been knowing, this established and almost, I think, 7-8 years back. We also know, and I think all of us in this room know, that more than mobile connectivity, it's broadband. So a 10% increase in the broadband penetration enhances the GDP per capita in emerging and developing countries in the range of, 0.8 to kind of 1.4%, which is more than what a mobile penetration would do. But this is also old news. I mean, this is also established fact. So I'm not going to, get into details of this. Was also, I think, released by World Bank almost, I think, 3-4 years back. More recent studies, and I think you'll probably hear from subsequent speakers, also establishes as recent as 2-3 months back, kind of study of different economies, emerging economies and developed economies, indicate that it's not only the connectivity, but it's also the speed of connectivity and usage of data, which impacts GDP of an economy far higher in the context that once broadband is available, and if you look at mobility, so a doubling of mobile data enhances the GDP per capita. It's been established by about 0.3% in emerging countries. This is more recent data vis-a-vis the earlier ones which I quoted. And a doubling of broadband data enhances, or typically would enhance potentially, the GDP per capita by about 0.5%, which is actually huge. So that's the kind of potential that broadband has, and not only broadband, the speed of broadband has on an economy. That's one aspect of it. Second point, as I said, was, and there is a presentation, I'll run through it very diligently. I just have about 5 slides, which is more on the business models. Second point is more on the inclusiveness of the growth. Now, I see two things here. One is the real world, and one is the digital world or the virtual world. Real world, this world where we all live, interact, so on and so forth. And there are huge disparities there. So a developed nation at a macro level will remain developed for foreseeable future. So I am not one of those, and if it offends someone, I'm sorry, I'm not one of those who's looking at India's GDP overtaking that of US in the next 15, 20 years or something like that. That's not going to happen. That's what I think so. So those differences will remain. So I spoke about GDP per capita. So if you look at India at this point of time, we are hovering somewhere in the range of 1,500 rupee or below that, dollar 1,500. We like to compare ourselves with China. China is about 4 times that, $6,000 to $7,000 per capita GDP. We also like to compare ourselves with the US. So that's what around $50,000 GDP, which is about 30 times or so. My favorite, Nordic countries. Look at Norway, $100,000, highest per capita GDP in the world. If you kind of exclude, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, and Monaco, which are very small, rich state, city, nations kind of thing. And if you look there, we are far behind that. So in the real world, those differences will be there. I don't really want to get into details here. But in the virtual world, that's where inclusiveness kind of comes in, in an extremely, sharp and decisive way. In a virtual world, whether we, in virtual world, through connectivity, through broadband, through mobile, basic connectivity and high-speed connectivity, whether we are in a low per capita GDP nation, whether we are in Africa or in Nordic or US, we will access the same platform, same information, and same facilities on the virtual world. So their inclusiveness becomes far more, possible in a much quicker time rather than being inclusive in the real world. So these two worlds, the differences will remain, but it's far more important to see how, and especially at the juncture in which our economy is to see how to push forward the entire effort, a lot of effort on the digital side, on the broadband side, connectivity side, to make these differences happen. In that context, what this report say, this is not a macro report. This report does not say India's telecom sector will grow from X to Y and those kind of macro picture. It's fairly operational level report in terms of these facts are established, that the sector has grown, there are challenges. There is a tremendous effort in terms of creating the national optical fiber network, which is, hopefully by next year would connect 250,000 odd, village panchayats and so on and so forth. But then what are those business models which will make things work, make things happen? And as I said, both in terms of the growth in GDP per capita, overall economic growth, as well as growing with inclusiveness. That's the theme of the report, as Dr. Karnik was asking me to kind of cover the overall theme. And there we've got some business models at a very granular level, and as we've discussed several times with the chairman of the Broadband Committee of CI, Harish Krishnan, this is an initial effort. We've suggested some frameworks. These need to be debated, discussed amongst different stakeholders. And there may be disagreements on some of the aspects of it. We do not want to discuss in this forum, but subsequently we could come to those business models wherein how the public sector, the private sector, and the panchayat, how these three elements and more stakeholders could come jointly to create viable business models. So that's the theme in short. I think I've covered some of these, why broadband and NOFN is, I think, known to all of us. Now, focusing on the priority sectors, so we've covered in this report, 4 priority sectors: education, healthcare, banking, financial services, and agriculture. And what is beneficial to all the stakeholders, whether it is the rural customers, the public sector, the private sector, and the panchayat. And we've drawn some lessons from I think other economies, but we've been careful not to overdo it. So we've, by and large, also in the report focused on Indian case examples which are already prevalent, whether it's, to name a few, and this is not, it's just about indicative list, whether it's Cisco or Microsoft or Intel and similar organizations, along with the entire huge effort from the government side, how some of these, pilots have been already, seen some success. So that's basically the theme of the report. Coming to the, sectors, education, we've proposed in this report 2 models. One is, and I don't want to get into details, we've actually even done the financial number crunching at a high level in the detailed report. In terms of the current state, education again really don't need to re-emphasize the point. But the high level fact is, over the next 1 decade, we will have 125 million new people in India who will get added into that working category population, which not everybody would be working, I do realize, but it's in the 15 to 64 years category. We'll have 125 million new addition in the next decade and another 100 million in the subsequent decade, which means, there's a huge potential to create jobs and then make people, ready for those jobs through education. In that context, current situation is not very good, but one is the virtual classroom in which the government schools and government facilities could be leveraged by the ICT private sector players to provide education, and that's one model we've suggested. We have some kind of workings we've done in terms of who pays whom, so it has to make it viable. There is some potential of teacher training, some fees coming from the school to the private provider, and some kind of possibly using some of the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan or similar funding which is there to channelize some of those funding here. Other model, number 2, is more of vocational training courses. I think somebody mentioned in the meeting which we had in this morning in the CI National Committee meeting, in terms of leveraging the village, the common service centers and the village level entrepreneur, and in terms of how that could be one channel to provide training and education to the masses who are in the outside the urban areas. The essential theme is same. There is a content available somewhere, there are teachers available somewhere, not exactly in the heart of the village where this is needed to be delivered. How to reach that? Again, connectivity and broadband. That's what I was saying at the beginning. To reach that kind of a mass, we do really have a shortage of, and all data is there. We have shortage of, teachers, and there is a teacher to, pupil ratio which is quite skewed in our case. So that's one way to reach, through a viable business model. Healthcare, again, the usual statistics are rather poor in terms of number of hospital beds, per population, etc. We are way behind even comparable BRICS economies, which is being covered in the report. Two models have been suggested. One is the telemedicine centers, which are owned by the private healthcare operators, and through, the broadband connectivity and so on and so forth, it could charge a reasonable amount to the patients and in the villages and so on and so forth. And we, again, have worked out the numbers. It seems that it may not be very, very viable for private sector if, based on the affordability of the rural, patient. In that context, we have seen if the funds which are there for the health, deployment of health in the country, some of those can be deployed here. In terms of cash-like instruments like health coupons and so on and so forth could be provided. And as I said, this is, basic, some initial thoughts here, and we could, discuss this in detail in subsequent meetings and so on and so forth to see how this could work. Other one is again through the Common Service Center, in which the VLE, the village level entrepreneur, actually facilitates the entire telemedicine services in association with private player. Here, I think again similar models are there which could work out to be viable for all parties. Banking, again, two models have been suggested. One is that banks tie up with post offices. Now we all know post offices also aspiring to get into a full-fledged banking entity, and so that is one essential step here, granting of a banking license, which is anyway happening in overall economy in terms of issuance of new banking licenses. So if post offices get the full-fledged banking license, in that context, how all other banks through their banking agents could reach a wider population and then bring that kind of inclusiveness here. The other one is the business correspondent-led model, similar to the first one, in which again a bank appoints the BCs or the business correspondents, and they reach the rural account holder through the the agents and so on and so forth. Again, there are some you worked out the detailed models there. What are the costs and what are the what help is needed from the government, from the post offices, from the private sector, so on and so forth. Finally, on agriculture, here I think it's less of a broadband play, but more of somewhere some things can be done without broadband as well. But again, in terms of information dissemination to the agriculturists in our country, through the common service centers or directly by the technology services providers. And we've got examples of TCS, M-Krishi, and ITC, Chopal, etc. already happening in our country. In that context, how these models, e-agriculture, information, weather, crops, fertilizer, those could be provided again through a payment mechanism, so it's viable. One problem here is that everything cannot be free. So if there's investment which has come in, from the government in terms of creating the NOFN, which and it's probably more of for in common English the middle mile. There's a core and then the last mile. Those issues are there still, and those need to be tackled and is being handled. But I think it needs to be viable for all parties. In that context, these models could potentially work where there is a fee and some of the fee is getting reimbursed in some form or the other. Then it makes sense for all stakeholders. The final slide is again in terms of key recommendations, how do these stakeholders kind of contribute to the entire inclusive growth, leveraging the NOFN, private sector players, of course, content creation, the service delivery, so on and so forth, adoption of market acceptability, and of course, banking and other services. That's the primary role of private sector, which we see beyond the common service center, kiosk, etc. that is there. Government's the expectation would be, of course, provisioning of the infrastructure, which is anyway happening. Also channelizing some of the funds, national rural health or the education funds for viability gap funding wherever it's necessary. And of course, some soft support in terms of endorsing some courses, certifying, and so as to give some recognition to the, the people who are undergoing such courses or so on and so forth. And last but not the least, in terms of the panchayat or the, the village authorities, in terms of their helping create the awareness, collaborating with the private players to enhance their marketing and to make people far more educated and aware in the largest sense, less educated, I'm saying awareness, so as to be able to use these services and benefit. If that critical mass doesn't benefit, we'll get into the problems which China is going to face. As we are growing, younger and younger, Chinese population is kind of becoming older and older. So vis-a-vis that 125 million, which I said about India, Chinese figures about 85 million, which is way behind. That's what is going to happen. So in that context, if there are certain business models which we have suggested in this report, in which all stakeholders, if they work together, and some of the workings are there in the report, potentially could, have a far better and more effective use of the entire investment which is going into the NOFN to create a more, vibrant economy and connected economy and inclusive growth. So that's broadly, sir, the theme of the report which we have worked with CII. Thank you very much.